What's up? It is time for another Q&A. This is my favorite format because you get to see me talking about a variety of topics. I get to talk about specific things that you guys have asked. I can go on at length and just say whatever comes to mind. And you also see me training. So this is definitely a format of video that I will be sticking with. Also, it lasts about 10 minutes long. You guys said that you wanted about 10 to 20 minute long videos, so here we are. First question: who was your bodybuilding idol when you first started? So, funnily enough, my idol was a guy called Mehdi. He coined the Strong Lifts 5x5 program, which, to be honest, most of you have probably heard of. If you ask the average person in the gym, have you heard of Strong Lifts? Most of them will say no. That's because most people in the gym don't know how to train at all, let alone go down the starting strength and strong lifts rabbit hole. He was the guy who took me out of the novice purgatory, quote unquote, with a focus on compound lifts, progressive overload, and he just gave me a easy, stupid, simple plan on how to at least get strong and build muscle, which I did do. It was then that I went off down the starting strength rabbit hole, and I thought that I could reach amazing muscular potential with, the basics, the big three. I did fall for that, and I ended up kind of looking strong and a bit muscular, but also skinny fat. I didn't have much arms. I had a huge behind, but I didn't have any quads really. So he was kind of my idol all the same, because I was thinking, if I just squat more, I'm going to get absolutely huge legs. Yeah, okay, kind of. I did also kind of look up to Jeff Cavalier from Athlean X at the time, which is ironic. That's just because I really liked the shredded look. And then I kind of educated myself a bit more on training and completely stayed away from that method of training where it's kind of just doing whatever in the gym every session, it seems. So yeah, Mehdi from Strong Lifts. Salute to you, sir. Question 2: how many days should you wait before cutting 10% in calories again if there is no progress? So typically a wait about 7 days. If no changes have occurred, you can either reduce calories by 10%, maybe, or 10 or 15%. I don't bother with relying on cardio to cut calories. There will be more on this in my upcoming cutting videos, because I think that cardio is a pretty stupid way to lose weight, actually. Yeah, focus on the food that you put in your mouth, the quality of the food. If 10% sounds like a big jump, then first look at the satiation factors of your food. If you're not being filled by your meals, then maybe experiment with intermittent fasting. This is also something that I'll talk about in future, because I've had huge success with fasting. 10%, but yeah, that 10% drop after waiting 7 days to readjust, you're going to be on the right track. Saying that, if you're slow cutting, maybe wait about 10 days, because maybe you're having a very gradual, slow decline in weight on purpose. So yeah, 7 to 10 days and drop by 10%. Question 3: are 35 kilogram dumbbell bicep curls for 10 reps strong? It's kind of one of those questions where it's like, I'm 14 and I can bench 300 pounds. Is that strong? Yes, that is exceptionally strong, assuming you're not using any hips. Are they like strict dumbbell curls? Are you on gear or something? That is very, very strong. I mean, on most of I can, just thinking about my curling movements on the incline curls, I'm using about 25 kilograms on lengthened partials. On my Bayesian curls, it says 35 kilograms on the machine, but that doesn't mean much. I use about 90 pounds or 35 to 40 kilograms on the preacher curls, the barbell preacher curls. So yeah, that's with 2 arms, so fair play to you, buddy. With the bicep training, definitely focus on getting more out of less weight. And when you do these stretchy movements like incline curls, preachers, cable curls behind the back, you will be using less weight. But if it's a 40-kilogram hammer curl with a little bit of hip, then yeah, that doesn't sound unreasonable eventually for most people. Next question, how do dietary choices affect cortisol levels? I'm really interested in the hormonal aspect of diet, so this is a good one. So insulin from carbohydrates, that can manage cortisol levels very nicely. I have experimented with low carb dieting. It isn't for me. I looked into a bit of research, and it does seem that extreme low carb or ketogenic diets does mess with your stress hormone cortisol. That's why people not only feel hungry during a cut, but they also feel kind of stressed and on edge. That's something that I definitely noticed. It is real when people say that when they eat a carby meal, they feel sleepy after. That's because carbohydrates increase or improve, however, whichever way you want to look at it, they increase your serotonin levels. That's what can make you feel drowsy and sleepy. So I like to eat some complex carbohydrates before my workout, and then I eat a lot of simple carbohydrates in the evening, where it doesn't really matter if I feel sleepy or not. That is something to bear in mind. I would never, if I were to eat breakfast, I will never open the day with eating simple carbohydrates. Full stop. Productivity reasons and overall health, possibly, maybe. Who knows? But this is a carb-friendly channel. I am certainly not against carbohydrates. I do think that they should be managed, not excluded. And anyone who is anti-carb just sounds like they are part of a cult to me. And if you go through all of the top athletes in the world, they all have a high carb diet. Whatever sport which relies on any kind of physical prowess, the top athletes are on a diet of high carbohydrates. Next question, is there a limit to how much protein you can absorb in one meal? Come on, I think this was kind of a myth from around like 2005 to 2015. So you can absorb all the protein you consume, it just takes time. Large amounts of protein in one meal is acceptable. I still like to spread it out, kind of. I would not eat all my protein in one sitting in the day, just because it can be used immediately post and pre-workout, and it's very useful for managing your hunger. So if you want to split up into 2 or 3 meals through the day, it can manage hunger very well. And if you were to eat it more protein all in one go, it's quite a challenge. Like, I eat 160 grams of protein per day. If I were to eat that in just 1 or 2 servings, that's a lot of chicken on one plate. As far as absorption goes, it really does not matter. It does not matter at all. It's been shown that people can absorb 50, 100, maybe more grams of protein in one serving. Next question is how to train abs without getting a blocky waist. I don't think there is such thing as getting a blocky waist from training abs. I think that's a myth that maybe a sports exercise brand, some kind of waist trainer brand made up. Maybe it's something that a supplement brand has made up. Maybe it's something that top bodybuilders have made up because they want to troll people, or they want to sound really smart, or they want to make their competitors not train their abs so that they have a competitive advantage. Look, I think it's a myth. What does the word blocky even mean? Does blocky mean well developed? Because if that's the case, just don't train abs and just have a flat stomach. Don't be fat. Don't train abs, then you'll have a flat stomach. I train my obliques, and I have not added pounds and pounds of size to my obliques. I do train abs pretty well. I train them twice a week and I train them hard. I would not say that I have a blocky waist. So, look, whether you're focusing on strength or size, I think that everyone should train abs. I do not think that ab training is a scam. And I think that even though it probably won't protect you from injury, I think that it is well worth the payoff. And even though the focus on six packs is huge, everyone wants a six pack. I don't see anyone in the gym seriously training abs. They just don't do it. They think that it all comes from diet. Diet is half of the picture. So, yes, train your abs and no, don't care about it giving you a blocky waist. Next question, is fish a primary protein source? Yes, totally. It's got all the amino acids you need. Salmon is especially good because of its omega-3 content. Generally, though, I like to eat white fish because salmon seems to have higher levels of toxicity compared to other sources of fish, so I've been told. And I can get plenty of omega-3 and omega-6 and omega-9 from other things that I eat. Things like, well, it's in milk for a start, surprisingly. I have black seed oil. I can also sometimes have cod liver oil, but to be honest, by the time I've eaten my other sources of fats, from milk and cashews, I'm not really fussed about eating fish. I quite rarely eat fish. Sometimes I might get a bag of frozen white fish because it's super high value and it's easy to eat. It's really nice to season. Even so, make sure that the fish you get is wild caught because the farm stuff can have all kinds of, honestly, horrible shit in it. And it's also usually quite high in mercury anyway, whatever fish you get. So I wouldn't be eating fish. I wouldn't be eating large amounts of fish every day. Maybe 1 or 2 servings a week, maybe 3 servings, and then reassess. Maybe eat some Brazil nuts with your fish as well, because the selenium can help manage the mercury. Um, yeah, at the end of the day, wild caught fish is going to be the way to go, and having it in moderation. Generally, though, for most of my protein, I just eat chicken and milk. Next question, how many hard sets per muscle group per week? It depends on the muscle group, it depends on the lifter, it depends on the exercise, it depends on how long the lifter's been training, it depends on it depends if they're natural or not. So, I mean, beginners should probably aim for around 8 sets, even, well, actually, no, 6 sets per muscle per week if they're training with bodybuilding style training. 6 sets per week, 6 hard sets per week, I should say. That's going to make them grow just fine. That's going to be more than enough. And you can break that down into a full body, 3 to 4 days a week, or you can break that up into an upper lower, 4 days per week, and just split it up into 3 sets per muscle group per session, depending on the split. Advanced lifters can probably get up to about 18 sets for a muscle group, and well, as a requirement to grow it. But you're not going to be doing that on 18. You're not going to be doing 18 sets per muscle group per week on everything, unless you're on steroids. That is only going to be managed if you're eating like a horse and you're sleeping well, and that's assuming you're on steroids as well. I don't think that 18 sets per muscle group per week for a natural lifter is sustainable. Possibly, if I'm not even going to go down the devil's advocate route, don't do it. That should only be done as a specialization phase when you go into the high volume territory, like very high volume. And I would put my other muscle groups on maintenance volume while I was running like more than 15 sets for a muscle group. The upper back could get away with 18 sets. I've done that fine and made gains just fine on my other muscle groups. But generally speaking, yeah, anything over 15 sets, you're going to have to bump that muscle group up in volume and bump something down in muscle volume, something that's quite synergistically close. Like if you're doing really high bicep volume, then your back volume is going to have to decrease, and vice versa. Say if your chest training goes up considerably, your shoulder training and tricep training is going to have to take a hit if you're running a chest specialization phase. If you're doing a bunch of quad training, then probably you will have to bring down your overall volume, because if you're going to be doing a lot of squatting and single leg work, it can take a systemic hit on the body, arguably. So, yeah, if you're pumping up high volumes, anything over 15 sets per muscle group, I would recommend bringing something else down slightly and just giving full recovery capability to that muscle group. Because, look, if you're going to build a muscle very well, then you might as well do it properly and give it its best chance of growing by giving more energy and time instead of just spreading yourself too thin. Personally, I like to do about 12 to 14 sets per muscle per week on everything and just gradually grow everything and have a well balanced proportional physique. And that is something that people say to me. I have a very balanced physique. So, yeah, if something goes up, something else has to come down, generally speaking, unless you've been doing a really low volume phase for a while. Last question: do you need to warm up before every exercise? No, unless it's a exercise that you struggle to feel on the very first set. So even though I do preacher curls towards the end of the workout, sometimes my elbow positioning can feel a bit weird. Sometimes I have to teach myself before the sets how to lock my triceps against the pad. Sometimes even things like the seat adjustment isn't quite right. So it really depends on the exercise. At most, just do one warm-up set if it's towards the end of the workout. Make it really, really quick. If it's at the start of the workout, then yes, you should warm up before the movement, if it's like the first one or two exercises. But generally speaking, the less you warm up and still perform on the exercise, the better. Warm-up sets can sometimes fatigue you out. So as soon as the joint is warm and there's some blood in the muscle, just go for the set, especially if you're in the 8 to 15 rep range on the set, you're using good form. Risk of injury is very low anyway. So experiment with whatever warm-up sets you're doing right now. Just experiment with doing less. Just take a warm-up set off and just see how the movement feels. If it still feels fine, then take another warm-up set off. You'll probably find that you spend less time warming up, and the effectiveness on the set itself improves as well. So yeah, take this as your sign to do less warm-up sets. You heard it here first. So that was the Q&A. If you got any more questions, then please go ahead and drop them below. And I will see you in the next video. Drop a like or whatever. Take care, everyone.